Hi everyone, this is Nibiru Watcher, watching the sunrise, and now this object is now at the 7 o'clock position. I'm going to catch it on time-lapse and regular video. Let's zoom in a little further on this. See it behind the trees, the lens flare over here. Let's zoom in on that. See, behind the trees. Oh my gosh, people. Let's get right with God. I will show wonders in the heavens and in the earth. Are there spots on this thing? I'm not sure. The time-lapse can't zoom in on it. Let's go back to time-lapse. Hi everyone, this is Nibiru Watcher, observing this second object. See the trees in the background. I've been catching this on time-lapse. See if I can see the trees blowing in the background. What is that object? Is it Nibiru or its moon? And that black object, maybe it couldn't be Nibiru. It's moving too fast around the sun. Or is it? Wow. Let's see that black object inside. There's almost the center of this second object. Let me zoom out a little bit. Now I'm going to leave it just like that, actually. So I'm going to move the camera out a little bit. You can see the lens flare there. Put this and zoom out. See the lens flare. Let me stop talking about the stupid lens flare. Let's zoom in on this one object. 12 times optical zoom plus digital zoom. Appears to be moving closer to the sun and rotating definitely counterclockwise. It should be tracking it all throughout the day. So surprised that they're letting us see this with no chemtrails this time. Clearly you can see the pine needles in front of this object. If you say lens flare, well, I've already left my piece with that. See if I can zoom in just a hair better. I don't know if I can zoom in any better. I'll leave it alone. Let's put a welder's filter in front of it and see what it looks like. Does seem to be too smooth of a round object to be a sun. It looked like Nemesis at first when it was low on the horizon, since it's been following up with the sun. It's almost as fast as the sun is moving. Actually, it must be moving faster. Let me zoom back out a little bit. You can see our lens flare again here. Notice how the lens flare is coming from this object, almost like in my other videos. I wonder what that looks like as the sun shines through this object onto the earth. Okay, I'm going to go back to time-lapse mode.
Shot of what this thing looks like. Not too impressive for the time being, but that is it. As I mentioned, it's the size of a Nimitz-class aircraft carrier. And the way we're able to observe this couple ways, we use these radio telescopes. This one happens to be in Puerto Rico. Kind of interesting to see. This one you have over here, the Goldstone, is actually from the Mojave Desert of California. This thing is so incredibly effective. it can actually get an object, take a peek at an object some 10 billion miles away from planet Earth. So pretty amazing stuff. Let me show you this animation that we have from NASA. And as we pop this up, you're going to get an idea. You'll see, of course, the Earth, which is right in the middle. Then you see that line that darts right through the screen. That is the path it's going to take. It is not expected to make contact with planet Earth, but I'll tell you, if it were to, strike, the ocean, Pacific, the Atlantic, it could make an impact that would cause a 7.0 earthquake, or possibly at the same time create a tsunami that would be up to 70 feet in height and spread out about some 60 miles from its impact zone. So pretty interesting. Good thing is, again, not expected to hit planet Earth, but it's going to make another pass a little bit closer in the year 2092. I think we're going to be okay. Maybe your grandkids might have some issues, though.
Okay.
Maybe great-grandkids.
Thanks, Reynolds.
You bet.
Wow, you're thinking way far ahead.
Long term.
Happy hour on this Friday, and joining me tonight is our chief producer Jenny Churchill and Evan McMorris Santoro, reporter and blogger for Talking Points Memo.
Hi.
Thanks for joining me, guys. Happy Friday. You know, we've spoken a few end of the world theories on the show before, especially when everyone thought that the rapture was coming, but the theories never died down, and especially because we haven't gotten to 2012 yet. And so now here's a new one that apparently people are just going crazy over online. Take a look.
Okay, look at the Earth distance, 1.812. Helios right now getting nearer to us by 300,000 miles per day. In about a week, that number is going to be 400,000 miles per day, and it's going to continue to increase. You're going to see more and more volcanoes going off. That's your sign to wake people up. You have 33 volcanoes erupting right now in the Earth, and that number is going to continue to go up as we move along in the timeline.
Vote on the news, and here's the winner. There's a huge hidden heavenly body right here in our solar system. Evidence is mounting that either a brown dwarf star or a gas giant planet is lurking at the outermost reaches of our solar system, far beyond the planet Pluto. According to the British newspaper The Independent, the object is 4 times the size of Jupiter. Experts say the presence of such a massive object could explain why a barrage of comets has been coming from that direction.
It's been almost 10 years since little Pluto was demoted from being a planet, but today scientists from the California Institute of Technology have announced that they finally have solid evidence for a planet X, a true ninth planet on the edge of our solar system.
It is believed to be far beyond the orbit of Pluto, roughly the size of Neptune, with a mass 10 times that of Earth.
There are things out there, little icy objects that are orbiting in a funny way, and nobody was quite sure why. It seemed like there might be something with gravity pulling on them, but nobody quite understood. And finally, these scientists that you talked about took a really hard look at it, did simulations, calculations, and they came up with the explanation. It probably is this giant planet.
I think I read somewhere it orbits the sun every 10,000 to 20,000 years.
Right.
Is that why no one has seen it to this point?
No, that's not why. It's because it's so dim. It's so far away that even though it's big, it's very, very dim, and it's very tough to spot with a telescope.
I'm also fascinated at the idea that this planet could be so far out there and still our sun be the mass that is keeping it in the gravitational pull of our solar system.
Right, yeah, but no, it's true.
That's incredible. And so there was a thought at one point from scientists that when they thought that there was something beyond Pluto, that it might have been all the massive objects floating in the Kuiper Belt, but it's not.
Right, so all those objects are out there and they have a lot of mass, and originally the scientists said, look, a planet is such a crazy idea, maybe it's the Kuiper Belt itself that's pulling it on itself. and making these orbits look funny.
And when we talk about the mass of this planet X, this ninth planet, being 10 times that of Earth, for those who are not scientists, what does that really mean, the mass of a planet versus Earth's mass?
Well, if you could put it on a scale, how much it would weigh.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really it. And so it's bigger, it's bulkier, it's got more heft, it's got more gravity. It's this huge elephant in the living room, except we didn't know it was there.
You mentioned that scientists haven't seen it yet because of how far away it is and how dim it is. Is there a way for them to get visual evidence?
Yes, so the biggest telescopes in the world can theoretically see this thing if they're looking in exactly the right place. And with the publication of this new paper today, they are now going to start to look in earnest.
How much further out there is this planet X than the rest of the planets in the solar system? I mean, it's
well, so Pluto we think of as the really out at the very edge, the very farthest thing that you could call a planet, even though we don't anymore. And
I'm still supporting Pluto's right to be a planet.
But this thing is 5 times further out than Pluto.
Fascinating. Is there any chance it's not a planet?
No, there's always. It's very foolish to say no chance because you know, you just don't know what you don't know. But the odds are looking very, very good.
60 billion miles from the sun.
Yep.
Amazing stuff. Michael Lemonick, thank you so much. Fascinating stuff.
Great, thanks.
Pluto, the sometimes planet, may be hiding a pretty huge secret. Well, 2 huge secrets, actually. Astronomers in Spain believe that hiding behind Pluto, obscured from our view, are 2 additional giant planets. Spanish scientists in Madrid discovered the potential for the 2 massive celestial bodies at the outer reaches of our solar system after studying strange patterns in the orbit of rocky objects around Pluto, including the newly discovered dwarf planet 2012 VP113. Scientists believe the first hidden world would be about 10 times the mass of Earth. They believe that this planet is moving in resonance with a bigger planet that is somewhere between Mars and Jupiter in size and would orbit 200 times the Earth's distance from the Sun. But can we ever conclusively confirm the existence of these 2 planets? Well, Scott Shepard at the Carnegie Institution for Science had this to say. As there are only a few of these extremely distant objects known, it's hard to say anything definitive about the number or location of any distant planets. However, in the near future, we should have more objects to work with to help us determine the structure of the outer solar system. So there you have it. Time will tell.
Now, here's the asteroid story. An asteroid the size of the Rose Bowl, more than 1,000 feet across, fields its way toward the Earth right now. It'll come by first in 2029, and we'll see it up there. It'll be closer than our satellites, a thing the size of the Rose Bowl hurtling through the air. And then it comes again in 2036, and that's when it may get interesting. The debate over just how close it'll get is sparking some serious debate between Russian scientists and American scientists. Here's a satellite picture of the thing. This is from, well, with this and, you know, this tells you nothing. But you see it there? I don't know, that circly thing in the middle maybe? This was from 2004. It doesn't look very intimidating here. Both sides seem to agree that in 3 decades, the asteroid will fly very close to Earth. But Russian scientists warn that our planet's gravity could change the asteroid's path and set it on a collision course. NASA scientists say there is a minuscule, little bitty chance of that happening. 1 in 250,000. Better than winning the lotto, and somebody will. Joining us now, Michio Kaku. He's a theoretical physics professor at City University of New York, CUNY. He's also the author of Physics of the Future. And a new book coming out in about a month, and we'll tell you about that in about a month. So, good to see you. 2029, it flies by underneath the satellites.
That's right. Mark it on your calendar. Friday the 13th, April 2036.
Well, that's the second pass.
On the second pass, right? The first pass, like you said, it comes right underneath our satellites. You can actually see it whizzing right overhead.
Wow.
And on the second pass, it might actually be a nation buster. It'll take out Germany. It'll take out France, England.
Not England.
Right. Or the entire northeast of the United States. It'll hit with the force of 100,000 Hiroshima bombs.
Really? If it hits.
If it hits, right. It's a catastrophe beyond human comprehension. And the head of the Russian Space Agency has said that the Russian scientists should think of some ways of deflecting it or handling this menace in 2036.
What are we going to do? Shoot it with a laser?
Well, everyone thinks we'll send Bruce Willis out there with the space shuttle. But the space shuttle can't even reach outer space. We're phasing it out, and the space shuttle only spins wheels around the planet Earth. It cannot even go to deep space. We need a new booster rocket to take us out there.
Maybe China will build us one.
Maybe, and then we have to nudge it out of the way. The farther it is, the easier.
February is Fireball Month. NASA has photographed about half a dozen of these bizarre slow-moving, deep-diving fireballs. Their sizes vary from basketballs to buses. Where are all the strange meteors are coming from? They all hail from the asteroid belt, but not from a single location in the asteroid belt, said Bill Cook of the Meteoroid Environment Office at NASA's Marshall Space Flight Center in Huntsville, Alabama. There is no common source for these fireballs, which is puzzling. There have been 5 or 6 notable fireballs that might have dropped meteorites around the United States alone. Germany and Japan have also had notable sightings. February 1st, a meteor lit up the skies over central Texas, putting on a dazzling show for people in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. It was extremely bright and took 8 seconds to cross the sky, said eyewitness Darren Moore. And I could see the fireball start to slow down, then it exploded like a firecracker artillery shell into several pieces, flickered a few more times, and then slowly burned out. As bright as the full moon, the fireball was spotted by NASA cameras in New Mexico, more than 500 miles, 805 kilometers, away. It was likely caused by an object 3 to 6 feet, 1 to 2 meters, wide, NASA researchers said. These fireballs are particularly slow in penetrating, meteor expert Peter Brown, a physics professor at the University of Western Ontario, said in a statement. They hit the top of the atmosphere moving slower than 15 kilometers per second, 33,500 miles per hour, decelerate rapidly and make it to within 50 kilometers, 31 miles, of Earth's surface. And the meteors have kept coming. My question is, what is knocking our asteroid belt around out there?
Hey folks, it's Thursday, October 17th, about 11 o'clock Mountain Time, 2013. Fire in the Sky news tonight here at the American Meteor Society. Started the day off with a bang, a major event over California. Many witnesses saw a spectacular fireball, which we are now referring to as rock stars instead of shooting stars, because people are seeing something that is just not typical, in my opinion. These reports are quite dramatic. And right now, we're getting some reports starting to come in from the East Coast, from Maryland, Potomac, Towson, and Severn. And one person describes it as definitely one of the coolest things he's ever seen. Another person described it as fragmenting. It broke into many pieces. Gave it a -9 and -13 respectively. The one out of the Potomac, they didn't give much of a description, so it's orange, red, and brown. And again, multiple chunks. Multiple chunks moving in tandem with the main object. And this one here, they did hear a sound. Popping, whistling sound, and that was out of the Potomac. So I'm sure there'll be more reports associated with that. And that, like I said, that just came in within the last hour. And one thing I'd like to ask you guys while I've got you here, the last couple of days, and this is just a question I want to ask, if any of you people are feeling like extremely tired, included, I have to be honest. Today, I for some reason this afternoon, and I don't normally get this way, I got really super tired. Joints were aching and stuff like that, and that's not like me at all. My wife, same symptoms. My 14-year-old daughter. And the only reason we're bringing it up is because she's feeling the same way. And not only her, keep in mind she's a teenager that's highly active in dance and all kinds of stuff. A lot of her friends in high school are having the same complaints. These are high school kids, teenagers. I mean, they're young, running wild, but there's many of her students at school that are saying they're just very super tired, have been the last 2 days. They just feel run down. Not necessarily sick, but just super tired. So I told my wife I would ask if any of you guys have been feeling those symptoms or know anybody that has. I don't know, maybe it's just a change in the weather. I don't know. It doesn't really change that much out here where I live, but I just wanted to ask, anybody feeling tired the last couple of days?
The fireball flew Friday night. The East Coast does not mean the end of Western civilization as we know it. Although you may have succumbed to the prophecy that some social media stop running. The sky lit along the entire U.S. East Coast. Those who saw it described it as a thin stripe of blue-green-white, explains Chip Guy, who was driving in eastern Maryland when he and his family saw him. It did not last more than 8 or 9 seconds, and then disappeared, said a spokesman. Guy, Sussex County, Delaware. Frankly, I did not think too much about it, he says, but became concerned when he published it in the web of the local media. Triggered a rapid and overwhelming. That was just the tip of the iceberg of what was going to happen that night. Throughout Friday night, every few seconds a message appeared on Twitter from someone who had seen the meteor. Some of the messages were from the cities of New York and Washington.
Dabu 7, we've had a huge fireball over Oregon today. The news here is reporting that multiple people got shots of this and sent in pictures, and they wasn't sure exactly what this object. There's a streak here, but there's an object right here in the frame, and I'm not sure what this is. If this is what they were seeing, there's no trail off of it. There's no smoke. There's no nothing. And that is way too large to be a bird. For a bird to look like that, it had to be somewhere up here in this tree line, somewhere up in this area, not way out there like that. I guess it could be a possibility, but I'm not sure if that's the object they're talking about or not. When looking at the other pics, it is clear this is the fireball that they are talking about. This pic is similar to the other, but there's nothing up here. This is a very good shot here. Almost pyramid type structure as it comes crashing down to Earth. Almost pyramid type structure. See it once again there and again here.
Debris. As you watch these explosions come off, it highlights both energy that's blown off the sun, debris, and energy that's in the solar system, surrounding the sun, between Earth and the sun. Again, this is SDO, a different satellite, but still Earth-facing. And we got some problems here with these three sunspots. One has already went beta, gamma, alpha to the far right there. The ones in the center is growing. We're getting the larger actual flares from the center one here. But I'm going to show you the charts on them. Also, notice in the top, this is that coronal hole that we had with the heat, and we've had a Hyder flare right there. That filament that we were watching yesterday, you can't see it rise because we're looking straight at it. But notice the wave that comes out at the bottom on both sides. That's called a Hyder flare. You can Google that, Hyder. But that's when a filament rises, the gravity of the sun pulls it back down and it collapses. Notice how it goes over that dark purple, that heat of the sun. Check that out. Now, I'm going to go through a couple different cameras here, but we've got filaments that have, that's the tail end one there as the Hyder flare collapsed, and see how far it reached. Remember, it takes 109 Earths if you place them across the face of the sun to cover the distance, to give you an idea of how massive each one of these objects that we're looking at. Again, in the dark green there, that's the coronal hole. And I'm going to stop this and pause it on these strong flares. Again, Earth-facing images from the Solar Dynamics Observatory there. And I'll show you these on the charts. It's the strongest one in a few weeks. There, look at that arc, the power inside that. It's huge. And that's what's happening is these sunspots are growing and spots around them. Check this out on the close-up. But the SDO is by far our best camera, guys. It's to watch the sun with. You don't have the Earth's atmosphere as you do from ground-based telescopes, and they can really analyze, and you can too with the different cameras. Here's our peak. We went to an M3 that, notice, started on the 27th, up through the different flares, and then this one. That's the strongest one. And if you go back almost in a couple weeks, guys, and you can see there, as I was doing the video, just a slight uptick. But we're going to watch this. All three of those sunspots are strong, and they're Earth-facing. You can see the three there, 13 and 34 here on the right. Beta, gamma, delta. See that with the red arrow? That's what you need for X flares. Now 36 is going to be right behind it. It is beta, gamma, and probably by tomorrow you're going to see that one capable of X flares. You can see the different colorations in both areas there, guys. That's telling you that you're getting a mixture of magnetic fields. Looking at the proton chart from the ACE satellites, and let's look at the flare tracker. This is the one this morning out to the left. Check that out. I'm going to let it play back through. Very strong. Notice also ISON in the pink square, according to this model. Now, it's not exactly accurate, but you can see that it's well past Earth. And the size of that flare is enormous. We've had one left and right. The Earth is in the green dot just behind ISON. Excuse me, in the yellow dot just behind ISON. And the light pink square is the MAVEN satellite. They're saying they're going to launch it out to Mars next. Now, looking at the American Meteorite Society website, guys, notice Texas, Nevada, and that's on the dates of the 29th. They came in today. This was last night. San Jose, California, Turlock, Wiley, Katy, Texas, San Antonio, Cleburne, Universal City, and Las Vegas. And also, a third report came in from the UK. And this is the map from last night of the sightings. But that's Edinburgh. And you can come here, and I'll link to this. This is the Lunar Meteorite Hunter site. Notice here the Meteor Alert Large Bolide Meteorite events expected from the 26th up to January 2014. Excuse me, up to the 12th of January 2014. And guys, that's when we're really in the center of the debris field, is the 12th. we're not past that of the incoming trail of ice before it went around the sun. It's a heads up on this, guys, and we have got a schedule on our next radio show that will be 30 minutes after Paul Begley's show Monday afternoon. That's 3:30 Eastern, 2:30 Central Time. But we're going to go there, watch his show, and then we're going to take the latest incoming on reports. And I encourage everyone to call in. Guys, the first show was kind of a technological disaster like I expected it to be. But sometimes you just got to jump in instead of being afraid to do it and learn it. And if you guys want to do that or make videos, just do it. Throw it out there and you'll learn, and I'm learning. But guys, we had about 700 and something people all together. And that's pretty good. And even though all the tech switches on my end weren't working properly, it was a great show, and I appreciate everyone calling in, and I encourage it. We're going to take calls, and we're going to let you talk about what you feel like is important. Heads up, be safe.
That exploded over Russia gave 2.2% of the population burns to their skin. New research says an explosion such as this, we actually could expect once at least every 25 years. Brighter than the sun, studying new details on the meteor that exploded over Russia. Thanks largely to eyewitness and video footage, researchers have documented Chelyabinsk with incredible detail. It was a blast felt around the world when the Chelyabinsk meteor exploded over Russia in February. Its shockwave was powerful enough to emit subsonic waves to far-flung regions across the planet. It says that the result that day, by watching various amateur video clips of the rock as it soared towards the Earth, the team was able to determine key elements shown in the illustration below. Among them are the meteor's precise trajectory, its speed upon entering the atmosphere, exactly where it fragmented into smaller pieces, and the point at which that explosion shone most powerful. That moment, a searing bright flash 30 times stronger than the sun, actually caused severe sunburns among bystanders. Shockwaves from the fireball, the team concluded, caused damage to an area up to 50 miles from the meteor's trajectory on either side. Fortunately, the largest fragment from the explosion, a 1,250-pound meteorite, hit a frozen lake. The team was able to recover that piece, and their subsequent analysis revealed that the rock, a relatively ordinary chondrite space rock, was more than 4,400 million years old. A new study published this week in Nature warns that the likelihood of events like Chelyabinsk is 10 times higher than experts had thought, making the phenomenon one we can expect every 25 years or so. Here's the illustration of its impact and where it was felt. It was traveling 11.6 miles per second, or 40,000 miles per hour. The meteor was brightest at 18 miles, I guess, above Earth when it exploded into fragments. 76% of the meteor evaporated before hitting the ground. 3,613 apartments had their windows shattered by the explosion, and 2.2% of the people outside at the time reported sunburns. Alright, bookmark my site. I'll keep you up to date. Please stay safe, and I'll talk to you later. God bless you. Bye.